Instead, he used it as a chance to put his testicles all over me.
His what?
How you say, octopus, testicles.
No. Tentacles. NT. Tentacles.
Tentacles.
There's a big difference.
You're the best around.
Best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be.
I need the best.
I had the best words.
Well, I'm the best there is.
The best. We the best.
Have a chance to be the best of the best.
You are now listening to Best of the Best, presented by Radar Studios. Starring two guys who use their middle initial to sound cool. Here are your hosts, Neil E. Fisher and Mark P. Smith.
You know, it's funny, when Bill and Ted actually came out, and the first time I watched it, I believe was on a VHS, and probably the only great way to watch it. You got to watch it on the original form in 4:3. But the only thing I remember is that Keanu, when I saw him, I was like, oh, that's the French Canadian from Youngblood. And so I was like, that's weird. He's playing this guy. That's pretty cool. And so the story with Youngblood is I would watch that movie on repeat anytime I went to my aunt's apartment when I was little. She had all these VHSs lined up, and when we'd go over to hang out or I'd see my cousin Stephanie, I would always pick Youngblood for some reason. And I think that was like my first foray into Patrick Swayze and my love for him. But so it was just funny to kind of revisit that idea when we were talking to our guest today, which was who is Diane Franklin.
Yeah, Diane Franklin is a great standout iconic person, actress from the 80s. Better Off Dead, Last American Virgin, Terror Vision,
Second Time Lucky, Better Off Dead.
She's great. She's super nice and has a lot to say. And I think you'll really enjoy this interview with her.
Yeah, and she goes through her entire career. We kind of talk a little bit more about Last American Virgin than some of the other films in Better Off Dead, just because those are some great memories for her. But one of the things I think is a great takeaway is if you're an actor or a filmmaker or want to be an actor, maybe a model, going into commercials, she really gives great advice of what she went through during that time period and what it was like to transition from modeling into commercials into film, and then film into being an author. And she has 2 books that she talks about that sound awesome, and Mark and I just put them in our carts on Amazon. So it's going to be really fun to read those and get even more in depth with her career.
Like I said, she has a lot to say, and I think you'll, if you're a fan of the 80s, and especially sex comedies, you'll enjoy this interview with Diane Franklin. So take a listen.
Last American Virgin. Can we talk about that?
Yes.
Yeah, that was a great segue, actually.
Yeah, we were.
Okay.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering how that all came about and what your experience was, because we're just to give you a little background too. Neil and I are big fans of the whole, well, not the whole canon collection of films, but most of them. That was a big part of our childhood. So we're totally interested and curious about your experience.
That film was a huge influence, not only, as a film, it stands on its own as sort of a time capsule of the 80s with subject matter and music. And also to me, I think it's sex education for guys. It's truly like, where are guys going to learn about sex even today?
Very much so.
Is like, isn't it? It's like you could, if you had a teenage son, you'd be like, yep, watch that. Except for my teenage son, he's not allowed to watch it. But I think it is it's a great place for guys to learn. Oh wow, this is what you can learn about about sex. And I have more to say on that. But with my book, the curly hair was also something like I decided. When I was thinking of the title, I thought, well, should I call it Beauty or should I call it? And I thought, I could get probably more people to buy it if it was more generic title, easier. But then I thought, my audience is the ones who understand me, and they will understand the work I've done. And my audience are the people who liked cult things. They liked things that were more specific. Mm-hmm. They liked history. They liked the nostalgia. And so the reason why I created this book was how Virgin actually influenced the 80s in a huge way. It was the first film that brought curly hair into the 80s. I was the person who kickstarted all that curly hair. So I go into that in depth with this book, which is so interesting because I knew it when it was happening, but I couldn't, like, I was a young girl acting in the business, and all of a sudden, and this is where I was talking about, like, we talked about, like, how do you get your start? I had been acting for years and I couldn't get a part, like, even as the best friend, because I was kind of too pretty, but not pretty enough. Like, I mean, like, whatever that weird thing is, like, I was a name enough to get the lead, but I couldn't play the best friend because I wasn't quirky enough. And then I do Last American Virgin, and that film, I was complete accident that I had curly hair, but and how I went to the audition with curly hair by complete accident. I usually straighten my hair. I get that job immediately. And after that, I got lead after lead after lead. So I remember specifically going, why am I getting these leads? This is really odd. I don't have connections. I don't have a big name. What's the deal? And it was, I started going, this is my hair. My hair's happening. And then people all around me started wearing curly hair. And that's when I knew that was that I had started the whole thing, because I'd been in the business for, again, 10 years before it hit. And Amy Irving was the only other actress who had it, but she had it in the mid 70s and it didn't hit then. And when she did it, it was kind of sort of more ethnic, maybe looking, right. She wasn't even the lead. It wasn't look like, she had beautiful hair and she was a beautiful girl, but only Steven Spielberg, got it. He was like, oh, think she's gorgeous. And that to me was like, oh yes, somebody thinks curly hair is beautiful. But to me, up until then, I was looking for, where's my curly hair role model? Where are those girls who are putting it, like, being proud of curly hair, as opposed to, curly hair was considered funny. You could be like Lucille Ball or Bernadette Peters, but it wasn't considered the beauty girl. Right. And so Last American Virgin, it was two things. I was an American. I was supposed to be the typical American girl, beauty. I was the object of beauty in that film. So I remember thinking, this is so weird, because I would not have been the girl you would have thought was the beauty girl. It would have been either the blonde, or it would have been like the girl who was like had long straight hair that was exotic. It was so different, and that's where this second book comes in. So, and it's fascinating. Like, both of these books, all I can tell you is I would never have written them if they weren't like real gems as books. These are special, like, they are from the heart, but they've got information in them that nobody could ever tell anybody. It's really just so cool. On top of segueing this, did you know that they just came out, or I guess, I think it was, Rat Pack, I know, put out Electric Boogaloo, the
we're big fans.
Documentary on Canon. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, we're big fans of that. Yeah.
Okay, great. So, like, and Brett Ratner produced it, and Brett wrote the foreword on my new book. So
that's great.
Oh, cool.
It's so, and that's why all this Last American Virgin all came in full circle, because Brett also grew up watching Virgin and loved the film so much that he bought the rights. So if there is a sequel, he would be able to do it, which is hilarious.
That's great. That was one of my goals, but I'm happy he's doing it.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing too about that film is, I mean, it's because he loved that movie so much. It's not just like he wants to just do it. I know that there have been scripts that he's gotten and he hasn't been very happy with, like, they're not what he wants. So until that script happens, I don't know when he'll do it, but you got to have somebody who loves that film to own it. I think that's really the important thing. And he just wrote the most lovely foreword and talked about how that film, like you said, it influenced your life, and I think it influenced a lot of guys' lives, and it influenced his life in a huge way. He was you'll have to read the foreword at some point, but it affected his life in a major way. So, but the thing about Virgin, which I think is so interesting, and I'll tell you my experience of it growing up, but then also what I think is amazing about it is that it draws guys in with the sex, which is great. Okay. Because guys are, you're a young guy, you're like, and you're in your teens and you're like, oh, like, I just want to have fun. I want to watch this movie. This is really fun. You go with your buddies, you watch the film, and then you learn about love also. because if the book, I mean, if the movie had focused on love, you'd never go see it. You'd never see it. But you go, yes, nudity, and so like whatever, I'm going to watch this film. So you watch the film, and then you learn about love, and then this ending comes,
right?
Which it hits you on. I think the reason why it hits people on so many different levels is, first of all, you're an American audience watching it, so you're expecting a happy ending. Mm-hmm. American movies have happy endings, right?
Right.
But the movie was made by Israeli director and filmmakers, and their perspective is in this European kind of a thought, but this is life. This is reality.
Right.
So when you're watching it as an American, you're going, what? You can't even like wrap your head around it. Like, wait a minute, I've expected this, not only just from a standpoint of, I mean, what happens in the film, but that there's no happy ending. That was really, I think, shocking to audiences, to guys, and it stuck with them.
Oh, that's why that's why it has that lasting effect. Like that's what I talked to Mark about, and one of the reasons it's one of my favorites is you don't expect the ending, and you see Gary go after Karen, who is the prettiest girl, and she seems very, very sweet, and you're like, you know what, this normal guy like me is gonna get the pretty girl. I'm really happy about it. And then when the ending comes, you're still Gary, because if that was me, I would have done everything that Gary did. But then it's just that heartbreaking moment at the party when you see her and she's not with you anymore. It's just. I showed a friend of mine the other day who hadn't seen the movie ever, and I was like, "Oh, you got to see this movie; it's great." And I didn't tell him anything. And when the ending came and the credits rolled, he looked at me. He's like, "Oh my God, I can't believe they didn't end up together. What just happened?"
Right, and you think you're very sophisticated in the 2017, right? You think, "Oh yeah, I can watch. This is just an old movie. It's not gonna, what could I possibly learn from this?" And you watch that movie and you go, what? Like, how can I be actually affected by a movie that was made, 30 years ago? Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. On a side note too, I have to say, because we were talking about this on our other countdown or whatever we were doing for sex comedies, and I was just blown away by the soundtrack of this movie. Like, I was just thinking, like, how much would this cost today to do the similar type of group? You know what I mean? The similar popular groups that are around now. It would be astronomical.
Oh my gosh, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that is absolutely true too.
Yeah.
That soundtrack was...
It might be one of the best of the 80s, honestly. You look at that list of...
Right?
Yeah, it's pretty great.
Oh, it's amazing. And then, like, I mean, and then the clothing, the look of it, it was super 80s.
Yeah.
I mean, and then the subject matter. There's drinking, underage drinking. There's cocaine. There's underage everything. Like, there's the crabs and there's the abortion, and like it brings up all these issues.
And that's all timeless, honestly. I mean,
like you say to yourself. I mean, I have to say, even just looking at those, thinking about those issues, even today, when we did it, I really thought like, that's just part of life, right? And I never ever thought that our world would go back to such a tight conservative thing. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like, I mean, it's just interesting having gone through that. But on top of it, okay, so now the way I played this character and the nudity and everything. So here I get the script for Virgin, and so, there's nudity in it. For me, I was like, this is a big break. I had not, this is an opportunity for me to after like all these years, I was on a soap opera, I played a character, but this was the lead character. That script, I thought, oh, do I really want to do this? And, it was a big step. I mean, I'd never done anything, but then I thought, wow, it's lead. And then I thought, and this is what makes, I think, the movie also so special, is because it was my first film, I knew like I could bring some depth to Karen. And I knew that I could play her in a way that, it's every actress has their movie, which is like they feel like I can make this better, like I can bring a voice to it. So even though part of it to me, like half of it was like the sex comedy, which is raunchy and sort of thing, I thought I can make this movie, like I can make it special. So when I agreed to do it, even with the nudity, and I was like nervous about it. I had not, it's not like I did like this all the time, but my parents were European and we were like, okay, if it's okay with you, if you're not, going to be, embarrassed or you're fine. They were like, it's your life and you can choose what you want to do. And I thought, okay, fine, I can do this. I'd love to do it. And I really was committed to making it, special and dear and kind of delicate. Right. So when he started to do the film, when we got there, first of all of us on the cast went to Boaz and said, well, you're going to change the ending, right? I mean, when we got the script, and he's like, no. I mean, so that was the first moment we all learned the actor is not the writer. Okay. Right. So we were like, really? And I mean, it was all our first film basically. And we were all very naive. We thought, you just come in and you just say, you're not going to do this, right? And they're like, no. This is how it stays. And then we learned it was Boaz's real life story. So we were like, oh, okay. So if it's based on reality, especially as an actor, you're taught reality is consummate, like trumps everything. If something's real, you have to, you give in, you allow that. So then it became like, okay, how are we going to justify this? How am I as Karen going to justify having him do all these nice things, which I would have, personally, I would have chosen Gary. So how do I justify it as an actor to pick Rick?
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
I mean, from an actress point of view, I had to figure it out. Like I had to go, how am I going to do this? And then I thought, okay, if I play my character, if I'm somebody who is so, like, I just fall for the person who's in front of me. Like, I'm one of those people that's just so, and I don't know if innocence necessarily the right word, but somebody who's like that person who flies like with the wind. Like, if you like me, oh, okay. Oh, you like me now. So I have no like roots, then I can roll with the waves, and whoever's nice to me in the moment, I'll go with. So, which is why at the end, if he makes up to me, I'm going to buy it, and I'm going to go, okay, you're taking care of me now. Basically the idea of be taken care of.
That's a great center for that character, because it reminds me of me in college, and there were so many girls who I liked that were like that, and it was just me constantly in the friend zone, which is what Gary ultimately ends up in. So that's why I think it connects with so many guys.
Yes, it's the passiveness and the lack of, this is what I want, right? So the girl who just goes with the flow and doesn't ever sort of connect to herself enough to be able to take the stand. So, and so when I played this part, now Last American Virgin was a remake of Lemon Popsicle. So even the girl who played it in Lemon Popsicle, sometimes these roles who are the passive roles are the girls who play them, they just play them like objects. Like they just walk here, do that. I mean, like you said, with like maybe perhaps like I have a model aspect to them where tell me to do this and I'll do it. But the reason why I think part of the reason why Virgin was so special was because I played it and you never saw it coming. And you wanted me to be with Gary. You wanted me to be with Gary because I was so, I played it very sweetly so that you never went, oh, I don't want her with him. You went, of course I want her. She's that nice girl, that girl that I'm walking through the hall and I see her and yeah, she's the nice girl, right?
Right.
And how can the nice girl do that to me? That was, I think, part of the kicker too. You do not see it coming. And I didn't realize how it would affect the audience when I did it. I just did that from the perspective of how can I rationalize this character?
Well, no, I think you played it beautifully too, because like you said, you're not expecting it, and you really fall in love with Karen, and she's the girl that you want to date in high school, who is sensitive and understanding and funny and everything, and it just kind of comes out of nowhere. Now with Boaz, did he show you Lemon Popsicle, or had you seen it before, or just read the script?
With Lemon Popsicle, he only showed me one scene. I never saw the film. To this day, I have to see it. Somebody sent it to me and I love to see it. I just have been so busy all these years. It's really funny. But I'm really excited to see it. But he only showed me one scene, and that was the scene where I cry from the abortion, like after when Gary is in the room and I'm looking down. Because that scene, when we did it, I thought I had to be more upset, and he said to me, no, look at this scene. Like, I thought I was grappling with, like, where's the focus? And so what that scene was about is it's about Gary. It's not about me. And so he showed me that scene to show me where the focus had to be, because I'm thinking I just came from an abortion and I have to make this decision. And Boaz came from the perspective of, no, this is a story about, this is the focus on that scene is on Gary and his reaction. So that I needed to see, because I didn't know which direction that, like, the energy of the scene should be. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I have to say, like, when you're working with actors and everybody's doing their first film, and this film was so dear to Boaz because it was his life. I think being open and we talk about actors listening to other actors, but it's a collaborative experience, and if you can take your nervousness away and just help each other make your films, help each other come from that head, yes, and improv head, boy, you can make some magic happen. I mean, it's really, really beautiful. It's cool, and you got to trust your directors. I think that's the other part of it. When people do student films, they're first-time directors, and I really back student film directors, because I really think that they have their heart in their work and they're so into it. They care deeply about their films, and they're going to work with their actors in a way that the actors are really well taken care of. But you got to develop that trust. Right. So that's another part of acting, is developing a trust between people.
Thanks for sharing that about Last American Virgin. Like I said, it's one of it's a movie dear to Neal and I, and certainly another one. And if I could segue, I'm not the best seguer, but
and he's actually on a segue right now while
get on that segue. Go.
is Better Off Dead. We would love to hear what your experience was making that film. How you
we just watched it actually yesterday. How you got other people to watch it.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
I love this film.
How you got this part and everything. So. Yeah.
Oh, I love Better Off Dead. I love Better Off Dead so much that I think my third book will be on Better Off Dead, because it is, what a great film. I love Better Off Dead because, I mean, even though I think Virgin will be passed on from generation to generation to guys, I think Better Off Dead will be passed on generation to generation from families, and also with women. It's such that my character was such a great role model for girls. I loved that character, Monique, because she was a character that she was capable. She could fix cars, and she could ski, and she was athletic, and she had a lot of. She was honest, but she was also feminine. She could be feminine. She could be caring. She could be. I guess I don't want to say girly girl. She could be girly girl if she wanted to. She was just free to be whoever she wanted to be, right. And I think that is such a good role model for whoever, wants to. And the coat in Better Off Dead, every time I go to a convention, I bring it, and then people get to wear it and experience a piece of history. So that's a really fun thing.
You have the same coat?
I actually have that Better Off Dead coat. I don't know how I got it. I just remember I wanted it really badly, and I don't know whether I paid for it or if they said I could have it, but the actual coat from the film. So when I go, anytime I go to conventions, and I will be going to a few, I'm going to be going to one in, I think it's Stockton, California, for, because there's just so many different ones. I'm going to, what is that one? Okay, that is, okay, wait. I'm going to be going to one in California. I'm also going to be going to one in this part. You might want to edit.
Oh, no, it's fine.
All right.
Is it the Sinister Con? Is that it?
Yes, there you go. Thank you. Sinister Con in Stockton. Great. And then I'm going to Dallas. I'm going to be in Famous Monsters Convention in Dallas. That's the end of May. So the one in Stockton is in June. And then I think June 10th and 11th, and Stockton is the last week of May. And then I'm going to be going to an author con in New York in October. And then I'm going to be doing this amazing, I can't even believe this is actually going to happen. I'm sitting here going, is this real? There's going to be an 80s convention.
Oh, wow.
In the Dominican Republic for a week.
That's awesome.
And it's going to be with Deborah Foreman and Andrew McCarthy and Anthony Michael Hall, and then all these 80s bands. And then from Better Off Dead, I got Amanda in, and Curtis Armstrong. So we're all going to do this thing called 80s in the Sand, and it's going to have all these 80s bands in it as well. I mean, if you love the 80s, this is it. I mean, Deborah Foreman was in it, and I said, can I just go? I want to be part of it. And so she got me in, which was fabulous. So if anyone's interested, that is an incredible thing. It's happening in November for a week. So ditch work.
We
and
should
just say, okay, this is for my anniversary or birthday celebration, and go, because it's a once in a lifetime experience. And so anyway, so when I go to these conventions, I bring the Better Off Dead coat, and so people can wear it, and then they could take pictures in it, or I could wear it with them, and it's just like having a moment of history.
That's cool.
So,
well, speaking of that coat and Monique's look, what I thought was really great, and I'm sure this was a choice that Steve made, but when you compare and contrast Beth and Monique, Beth, I believe they do have a scene where she's at a picnic table in her bathing suit, and she's obviously this, far off, not object, but attraction for John Cusack, and you see her, and she's like the popular girl. But then Monique, like you said, I mean, you're really just basing your opinion on her brains and the type of person she is, and that she knows how to be a mechanic and be supportive and all this, and it's you're falling in love with Monique because of who she is rather than, what she looks like and how popular she is, which I thought was really great and a great message too.
yes, right? Absolutely. Yes, no, exactly. And then exactly like Beth was sort of, I guess you would say, objectified, in a sense, or certainly, I mean, a guy's I mean, let's face it, when you see a girl or a guy, the first thing you see is, you don't know them, so the first thing you see is what they look like, and then sometimes you'll date them or you like them, and then you'll try to put something on them like that maybe it's not there, like, oh, they didn't mean that, or oh, I like that way they chew gum with their mouth open, that's cute, like you'll try to justify sometimes the things they do, as opposed to seeing objectively like who they really are, perhaps. So I think we all experience that in a certain way. John plays that with, Beth, and Beth is like dumping him, and she's like, I don't really care about you. And at the same time, or maybe perhaps her character she likes to be wanted. She likes to be wanted. And,
right.
But at the same time, her thing is to be popular. So Lane is left with, how can I stand up to that? How can I compete with that?
Right.
And then when he finally does, he figures out, wait a minute, I don't even think this is what I wanted in the first place. So it's a lovely story, and I think a lot of kids or people can identify with it. Today, I have to say, it's still one of my favorite films. Whether I was in it or not, I love the message, I love the humor, and it's just, I'm very proud for people to see it, because it's super funny.
Oh, no, we love it. Like I said, we were watching it yesterday at lunch, and this was Steve's first film, right?
This was Steve Solon's first film, and it was he was probably, let's say, 26 or something, 25, very young filmmaker, probably the youngest of all the filmmakers.
Well, I love that, because I'm always fascinated by filmmakers' first films, and I just kind of seeing the choices they make and ideas they have. And so I guess the question specifically for that is, did the original script have the weirdness and the quirkiness in it? Because, some of my favorite scenes are like, Kim Darby in the reindeer outfit giving John Cusack the TV dinners, or having the squid in the pot in the background. So
actually, the main script absolutely did, but I would have to say the only thing that was different was that it had some bad language in it.
Oh, okay.
And the funny part was, we all forgot that, but CBS took that film and went, we can't put some of those F-bombs in there or whatever, like that, like some bad language. They had to clean it up because they knew that their audience was going to be PG or G. So I think it's PG. So that was the only thing that was, I would say, different than the first script. But as a young filmmaker, every young filmmaker tries to put that language in their stuff. Do you know what I'm saying? Once you hit after 21, you say to yourself, "Oh, well, I'm going to just put that in there because I'm going to try to be edgy, right? Because you think that's adult." But then you find out, well, just because you're writing something edgy doesn't mean that the audience that you're bringing in will want that's part of it, you know? I really think there's two things that I want to bring up. One was, first of all, for Savage to start and make that film at 25, I think, or 20, maybe even 24, he was really young. That was almost impossible. Nowadays, you can make film when you're 12, but then it wasn't happening because you couldn't get the film equipment. You couldn't. I mean, somebody else actually had to pay or give you money to make a film. It was not easy to make a film. You had to get the equipment, the film, the cutting, editing bay time and stuff. So it was much harder to make a film at a younger age.
That is
during that time. Yeah. Second of all, the film Better Off Dead was when it came out, when I got the script, and when we all, like, I remember talking to Amanda about this, nobody was writing scripts that didn't have, like, gratuitous nudity or violence or something. To get something that was that funny but not, didn't have sort of something sensational or exploitive in it was very rare, because they tried to get the audience from watching TV into the theaters. And so the only thing, how can you get audiences to leave the house and pay their good $5 to go see a film, would be that you'd put something that they can't get at home in television.
Right.
So they would always try to add something risque, but because Better Off Dead didn't have that, we were all sitting there going, oh my gosh, I would actually love to be in this film, but how is it possible that this film doesn't have anything in it that's offensive?
Right.
Well, I think that's why it rises above a lot of the other ones, because, you know, the 80s do have that trope of kind of gratuitous nudity or just nudity for no reason. A shirt comes off, a dress comes down, and this one had that quirky sensibility that I think
is about character.
Right. It's about character.
But it didn't, but it didn't rely on it to get people into the theater.
Exactly.
But on the other hand, Better Off did not do that's now. It's actually at this moment it's all coming together. Better Off did not do that well in the theaters. What happened was I mean, we thought it was hilarious. Actors almost wanted to work for free because they wanted to be in it. I mean, Vincent Scioli, who did, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, plays the teacher in it. I mean, for him to want to do this film, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, the people it pulled out of the woodwork to want to do this film, David Ogden Stier, I mean, who did MASH. I mean, how can these people want to be in this film? It was so funny. So everyone wanted to do it. Then it didn't do that well in the theater, but thank goodness VHSs began to be sold to people in colleges. And now the film goes to college students are going, I want to watch a film. I don't want to watch something heavy. I want to watch something funny.
Yeah.
Oh, and then, we could watch it over and over again. Let's watch Better Off Dead. Hey, I hear this film's good, word of mouth, and you want to have a good time, watch the film. It became an underground sensation. And so all of a sudden people were renting it and buying it. And that's how I think it got its word of mouth, because the audience could now take control of their media.
Right.
So then, you pass it to friends or you got to see it. So that's how I think it stayed alive. And then for it to be passed on to people and their kids today, I mean, it is not a given that if you do a film that people will be watching it, 50 years from now. It's really a gift. And so I'm just super happy. And I love the character of Monique. It's very fun. And I felt very happy because I had done a film before it where I had a French accent. And then I thought, this would be perfect. So I just went into the audition and they originally Savage wanted me to see me for Beth. And I was like, no, you must see me for Monique. And he was like, what? And I was like, yeah, what? What are you talking about? And I was just talk like this. And that was it. I talked like that. And I just started to improvise in the French and said, no, you want me to be Monique because this is a great character. I love this girl. And they were like, okay, or whatever. And that night, I'm like crossing my fingers going, oh, please. And they said, oh, yeah, she got it. And I'm like, yes. So it was magic. I mean, what a wonderful moment, in my life.
That's awesome. Before we before we run out of time here, I wanted to, if I could, segue to your experience with Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, because we're also
another one.
All these are just they're just movies that we're big fans of, and how did you go about getting on board with this movie, and did you know it was going to be such a weird? I mean, like it's another one of those cult movies of I guess is what you would say, or.
So I'm so grateful to have gotten into that film. When I auditioned for this film, I was like, first of all, I thought I was up for the French Girl because I had done Better Off Dead. I'm thinking, they want me for Joan of Arc. And then I find out Joan of Arc doesn't have any dialogue, which I was like, but to me in my head, I guess I thought there was, or I thought, I'll create something. It was so funny. So when they suddenly said to me at the audition, can you do an English accent? And I said, of course I can do an English accent. I'd love to, And they were like, would you consider being the princess? And I didn't even remember the princesses in the film. I was like, the princess? What are you talking about? I didn't even know that there was the character of the princess. And I thought, well, that's kind of unusual. Like, I don't know. I mean, sure, I guess, So it took me off guard. I almost didn't do the film because I thought, well, I mean, I don't even know if that's a real role, And then they went, oh no, we want you to play this. And originally I was cast as Princess Elizabeth, my character's name was Elizabeth, but then they got it wrong in the credits. So then I've been Princess Joanna ever since, but I was originally Princess Elizabeth.
I wonder where that person is who did the credits, and they're like, I really screwed up. Hopefully no one finds out.
Did you have any idea?
Hey, come on. But I was like, it doesn't matter. I'll be Princess Joanna. That's fine. So I was Princess Elizabeth, and I loved working with the guys. And, Keanu hadn't really hit yet. He was up and coming. We all knew he was going to be a huge actor. I mean, he was definitely, as with John Cusack, they had done their first film. People were saying there going to be a lot of heat on them, but we didn't really know, what they were going to be doing. And frankly, I am so excited that I actually got to do Bill and Ted's with Keanu because I got to see the light part of him, Mm-hmm. All the Matrix and all that so heavy, and with John having their
we were just
career.
talking about this, yeah. The
second
Keanu career has been
his resurgence is like
pretty
a badass
action-packed, yeah.
Oh, I know, right? Well, I mean, it's great. I mean, I'm so happy for Keanu. He's a lovely guy. I wish we had spent more time together. Hopefully we will in the future. He's first of all, he's just gorgeous. He's so sweet and deep soul, and as well as, John Cusack, deep soul. I think the luckiest actress to play opposite both those guys, and in the roles that they did.
Well, and John Cusack is basically a native son here in Chicago, so we're also proud of.
I know. I'm so excited. I want to contact him. Yeah, to ask him if he has any suggestions on places.
He'll
to go
probably
in
have to take you to a Cubs game because he's always there.
I know, right?
Wrigley
I'll
Field.
be there. So I can go.
I've also and I met
John took me to a Cub game. Wouldn't that be just great? Like it would be sort of full circle with Monique going to the game.
Well, as long as you guys kissed on the home plate, then it would be.
Yeah, we'll have to kiss on home plate. That'll be fine. I'll do that. That'll be okay. My husband will buy that. That's okay. You're like, okay, I know that.
Well, what's funny about Bill and Ted too, and now you're making me think of it, is you actually got to do sort of. Both shades of Diane Franklin as the princess. You had the straight hair, and then when it went to the 80s, to modern times, you got to do the curly hair with George Carlin.
Right? Yeah, that's right. With Bill and Ted, I had that long fall, so that was kind of a cool sort of wavy. But yes, at the end, I got that little nod to the 80s. And again, that was 89. It's so funny. You're asking about how I started my career, and if I miss anything, you just go to my book, Diane Franklin, The Excellent Adventures of the Last American French Exchange Babe of the 80s, which is such a long title, but you can't say that title without laughing, and I think that to me that's why I titled it that, because I wanted people to understand my center, where I'm coming from. I don't take myself seriously, but yet at the same time I have a lot of unbelievably interesting things to say, and So it's a great book. But anyway, so my beginnings, it's interesting. I started with modeling, and I recently saw something online. It was like, I don't know, it was some kind of Wikipedia thing, and it said I was a model, and I went, that is so weird because I am an actress. Why would anyone think I was a model? I'm 5'2". How does this even happen? I was like, what? But it is kind of fun, I guess, for any girl who's kind of a smaller side to go, you know what, you can be a model at that age. But I started modeling when I was 10 years old. So therefore, yes, I can say I was a model, but then obviously my growth did not help me there. So I got into commercials, and then that got me into voiceover and theater, and I did some extra work on a film. Endless. No, wait. It was pretty. No, it wasn't Pretty Baby. It was Endless Love. I was an extra in Endless Love, and then I did a soap opera, and then that brought me to Last American Virgin. So, and then more and more work after that. But basically, my beginning was through modeling, not because I didn't even think of myself as model, and I honestly never thought of myself as pretty like a model. I really, really didn't think that. I'm always surprised when, oh, you're pretty. I'm like, really? That's nice. But the only way I really actually buy that right now is because my daughter looks very much like me, and I look at her and I'll be like, oh my gosh, Olivia, you're so beautiful. And she's like, what? And I go, oh my gosh, is this all happening again? Whereas like, what's happening into your own face, but anyway, so I started with modeling because I didn't have any acting experience. I had no training. At the time in the 80s, you weren't supposed to, it was looked like down on you training in that young because it was supposedly taking away your naturalness. That was what I was told in the professional part of the business. They just want you to be a kid. They want you to be yourself,
Right.
Which is interesting now because actually I do teach acting, and what I've learned is, what it is that when you're a kid and you're doing theater, you're usually playing adult characters.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? You're not
Right.
playing yourself. So you're doing a lot of character work. So it's extremely fun as a kid to do that. But I can see why they say that, because of course you're not going to be playing, an old woman,
Right.
or like, sort of a sexy, sex pot kind of person. You're going to play a kid. So I think to clarify that with kids, and if you're teaching them, is certainly kids can learn the who, what, where, and all that stuff of acting. But anyway, so in regard to my career, I was very green, and so so as a young actor, like, you don't know where to go. You try to go by your word of mouth, and so unfortunately, we had really kind of bad word of mouth at the beginning. So I wound up like going to an agency that made us pay them, and then we learned, oh, you don't do that. That's not a legit agency, that, you have to pay for auditions. And then I found out I came into modeling, with this agency, and did a lot of catalog work, and, great, like fashion shows. I did a fashion show at the Waldorf Astoria with like fake furs. And it was like, it was just so like walking down the aisle of like the Waldorf Astoria, their ballroom, and really kind of fun thing. I think I did like a fashion show on like Fifth Avenue for Macy's or something. There was some really fun modeling gigs I did. I went down to Florida, and they took me and a bunch of girls. We worked together, and did some fashion shoot at the Doral Hotel. So modeling does have its glamour, and I got to wear the midi length before it was even a thing. Like midi, I don't know if anyone even knows what midi is. It's between the mini and
Right.
the maxi.
Right.
Right. So anyway, so I started with the modeling, and then I didn't grow, and it was like, what do you do now? I guess I would go into commercials. So then you learn to talk. Oh yeah, talking is important. So the funny part was I was actually really shy, and I talk a lot now, but honestly, I've learned the gift of gab through my husband. I was so shy, like I really didn't. I thought, oh my gosh, to say what you think, that is so bold, right? You could think what you think, but how can you say what you think? So, but I was very shy, and in commercials, I had to learn, okay, now you have to add your voice to this. And and that was so fun. I mean, then I learned to do more voiceovers, but I could never get a big part at the time. I was auditioning for things, but it was so hard. You know, when people talk about getting that big break, that is, it is a big deal because you go without for so long as far as big parts. And there's a reason that happens. And it's usually because either you don't have that work experience, or, you know, look, you could be an attractive person, but if you're competing with other people, maybe you're taking the limelight away from them, or perhaps you are not, you're not so experienced that you can accommodate them, you know.
Right.
You know, like sometimes you're acting and someone else has to be the main person, and so you're doing a dance around them, you know, sort of in a way to help them. And so when you're starting off, it really, you got to kind of find what is that makes you, and why would somebody hire you over someone else? And I don't even mean that in a way that, I don't mean that in like you don't have enough. I mean like just in a business aspect, like, you know, if maybe, you know, if for me it was like later on, like doing accents, you know, like somebody may hire me over someone else because I can do an accent and maybe they need it, you know, to play this kind of person. Or maybe they need someone maybe there's an actor who's not that tall and they need somebody who's a little shorter to make them look tall, you know. I mean, some bizarre little things that you go, well, does that really matter? But the talent could be equal. And what you want to do is you want to get your talent down. You want to study and you want to know what you're doing so that when you do get that break, you then have the availability, you know, you then can fly, you know, because when you start working, I would say it hits hard and fast.
Right.
So if you're an actor and you're listening to me right now, definitely you want to study your craft or study what you're doing, at least know what you have to offer, know how to do it, and be prepared, because the more you know, the better your chances are.
Right.
Well, that's an interesting point to make too. And one of the questions I was going to have is, you know, what we do mostly commercials here, but we also do some short form things and digital content. But I often cast a lot of my own work, and so I guess coming from your experience, but also from a teaching angle, we see a lot of, you know, actors come in who were primarily models first, and this is like their first commercial audition or first short film audition. How would you compare and contrast, you know, modeling and acting and sort of that leap? Because I know, you know, models, I was talking to Mark about this. What's funny about models and actors is actors, and I've done this when I acted before too, are sometimes very insecure, but then models aren't insecure at all, and they're very open about everything. And it's just funny to see models come into the acting audition. They, you know, are very open about themselves, but then when they play a character, they get kind of insecure. But then actors are sort of insecure a little bit when before they're playing a role, but then when they play the role, then it's, you know, all bets are off. So
exactly, it's interesting. I absolutely. Well, with modeling, I know a lot of people who want to, like. Okay, I was actually just thinking about how interesting that how sometimes a person has a look or a voice that is so interesting and so distinctive, and really, you know, you look at them and you're like, I was just talking to a actress about this, that when they had a distinctive look, people recognized them, and it was sort of like people have a relief when they see somebody. They go, "Oh yeah, I know you," right? But if somebody doesn't look that distinctive, they go, "Wait, is that her or not? I'm not sure." So now here's the difference. So like as a model, you might have a distinctive look. Maybe you have like those eyebrows, or you have that you're really, really tall, or you have these eyes that are unusual, or that hair that's different. And so people can go, "Oh, that's her," right? And they like that. They like being able to define that person, just because as you kind of feel more confident, like, "Oh, that's that person." But an actor is the chameleon. The actor is supposed to be the one who can look like anybody. And in a way, like if you look too specific, you can't be the everyman. You can't be the every woman. You can't, you know, it's like you suddenly lose that's sort of, to me, like the difference between like the celebrity and the actor. The actor is the person who maybe you don't always recognize them until later on, because the actor needs to have that ambiguity, because they need to play all these different parts.
Right.
So, you know, you should be able to look at them and go, "Wait, is that the same person?" Like that's kind of that feeling, which is why I never, in my early career, I didn't define my name and didn't define maybe my look so much, you know, at the beginning, because I needed that versatility. But when you're talking about models and actors and personality, so a model says, okay, I'm just a model. I'm not an actor. I've never said I was an actor. I'm just going to walk in. So I have nothing to lose, right? And I can just be me because I'm not going to try to be anything. I just don't, just tell me what to do, right?
Right.
That's a model head. The actor head is you don't know what I am until I do it.
Exactly.
And so the actor head is a little bit more like, I have to watch what's going on in the room and take in everything before I can commit necessarily to what I'm doing, which is more neurotic. Like, you have to, as an actor, I always like tell people when I teach them that you need to come in and do this for yourself and say to yourself, what's my personal acting goal? Like, how do I want to feel when I leave that room? Do I want to say I conquered my nerves, or I really nailed that scene? But you never go in trying to please, and you never go in trying to get the job, and you never go in taking on the energy of the room, because the energy in the room is going to, I think a lot of times messes actors up. It's like, you have to go in and say, I've got an idea, I'm going to do it. If they have a change, they'll tell me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
But, for you as somebody who's in casting, you just want that person to go in and nail it. You know, you just want them to come in and do it, and then you can go, oh, can you make it a little lighter, or could you make it more real, or you can, and so, and at that moment, that actor, if they can hear after they go in, if they can hear the direction, then that's the beauty part. That's the part where you can see if they can take direction, or if, but I would have to say that it is interesting how, I think, coming from modeling place, I definitely did not assume that I could act. But I did listen very much to direction, and I was much more open. But I will say that acting training is essential for acting later in life, because as you get older, you're going to play more character roles, and you don't play that as much maybe when you're younger. I mean, you may play someone who's blind or has an accent, or has you're mostly imagining yourself in that situation. But as you get older, you can play an alcoholic, you can play, there's more. We live more life, so we have more character stuff to work on. Right. So I just think it's the actor's life is always learning and always watching and always observing, and also even acting styles changed. When I was in the 80s, everything was slow, and you took your lines, you memorized your lines to the T, and you didn't extra maybe more takes in a way. But today, it's much more improvisational. The style has changed. It's odd to take big pauses. I think that certain, maybe soap opera television still sort of keeps that. We don't even have soap operas during the day, but nighttime TV maybe takes it, that kind of pacing. But you got to keep up with the style of the acting world, and I just think in life in general, things are moving faster because of the internet. Everyone's speaking quicker, and it's just it's definitely, I believe, the internet and all that, the computers have definitely affected even acting.
Well, right, because people are watching things on their phone now, and they only have so much time to stare at it before they change it.
Exactly. Right. Yeah, and you can't sit there and take your time. I mean, it's interesting. A movie that maybe you loved when you were growing up now might be too long.
Right.
For I don't know, for a new audience. It's just, I don't know. What's your thought? I mean,
I think that's right. I think, from a directing standpoint and projects that Mark and I work on, a lot of them, whether there is a script or not, they always sort of evolve on the shoot day into more of an improv exercise, because we'll find, a lot of the best moments are improv, and whether one of the actors is familiar with improv, or maybe if they're not, then that actually works well, because then they play the straight man because they don't really improv.
Right, exactly.
And so that's always a nice thing to find. You have someone who's very strong in that respect. We just did a project where one of the actresses was very, very well versed in improv, and the other one wasn't, and it was just great because the one who wasn't was just reacting naturally, and it worked.
Was listening,
right?
Was
Exactly.
Right. And actors are trained to listening, and it is so interesting. I mean, that's exactly right. I have taught acting and improv, and the most interesting part is that there is this crossover where a lot of actors are just taught to act and they're not taught improv. And so then they're very afraid. And which is also like you need to get some improv in back of you so that you're not afraid to work. But I like to hear, that's interesting that you're saying that interesting mix of the improv with the regular actor, because then the truth is it's very hard for some improvisers to listen. Do you know what I mean?
Oh,
because
yeah, right, yeah.
They're so used to doing the bits that it's hard for them to actually hear, so I mean, be in the moment. And actors are all about reacting, to the moment. So
and you can see in their face too that instead of reacting, they're trying to think of the next joke.
What I think
exactly.
And I think Neal and I too, we, like I said, we mostly make short like commercials and stuff, so sometimes it's even harder for us to sort of, if we do something that's more of a longer form thing, like Neal's we're about to put out this long web series that he's been doing, which is, basically in the end, it's almost like a 3-hour movie. Mm-hmm. But when you watch those, you're almost like, all right, just, you have to retrain your brain, even from a director, editor standpoint. Like, this isn't a commercial. We can kind of take our time and do what as long as it's interesting.
So it's going to be 36 episodes, and they're going to be 4 to 7 minutes each.
Right. It's funny you say that. I actually can tell you something that's, I understand what you're going through. My daughter is, she is a filmmaker, and she has a web series now on YouTube called Sugar Babies. And the episodes are maybe 5 to 8 minutes long. And they've done comedy, and she and her partner, they call themselves Barely Legal Comedy. She just turned 21, by the way. It's oh my gosh. And the funny part is they decided to do this show on Sugar Babies. Sugar Baby is a young girl who goes out with an older man. Usually they get paid, but they thought, wouldn't it be funny if you did a series about these two girls who go out with older men or go out with lonely men, but they never have sex. They're part of the contract is we cannot have sex.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's great.
That's the joke on it. So what I think is interesting about those series, and you're talking about, is your viewers are, first of all, the new generation where things have to move fast. People don't have the time to sit and watch an hour show. Or if they do, they're binge watching. And then it's late at night, and it's then they really want to sit down and watch
everything at once,
for a long time, right? So, but you're smart in that you need, things have to move quickly, and then but at the same time tell a story, and so it's a whole. I really think, especially with teaching acting now and having done all this acting in my career, that when you're working and you're creating something, first of all, find your voice. Second of all, let it. If it's funny to you, it will be funny to somebody else, and that's why, thank goodness on the internet, you can find your audience. You don't have to get everybody; just get the people who get you. You know, and I even know, in my career, I say, Paul Newman, famous actor or popcorn, or salad dressing. It's it's your generation. And you can't convince a 5-year-old or 10-year-old that he's anything but great chocolate or popcorn. Right. And you can't convince somebody who's in their 50s or 60s that he's not one of the greatest actors ever.
Right. That's so funny.
So, so why waste your energy on trying to make that happen? You just connect to your audience, do what's funny, and if people understand you, they will. And that's the beauty of the internet to people to see.
I just had one more question, and I was thinking about this while you were explaining your experience with these films and thinking about your books. I was asking this to Neal, and I don't know how to put this question specifically, so I'll try here.
Go for it.
The term babe, or that whole it's definitely an 80s obviously and you wear it as a badge of honor, considering the characters you played in your career. Mm-hmm. These days, I was thinking of how it reflects society now. We're a much more
conservative, and
well, not even conservative, but we're much more
correct.
sort of offended society, or or people would think that as a negative term. Do you think there is a role for that? That kind of character or in movies these days, or is that kind of gone? Is that the the sex pot or whatever you want to call it, sort of?
All right,
object
I'm
of
so
desire.
glad you brought that up. I am so glad. Some people were like very offended. I actually coined. This is one of the reasons why I used the word babe in what I do. Okay, so first of all, in the 80s, I mean, obviously, babe and dude were words that we used, in the 80s. And yes, I mean, obviously, a babe is somebody who's hot and cute. It's a sexual thing. But on the other hand, what I've been trying to do and turn it it's a playful way where you're attractive and you're, sexy. And to me, but also babe really to me was centered in the 80s, the word babe. So it didn't seem to contemporary word. And when I used it in my books, it's very specifically, I really wanted to be seen, if anything, or people perhaps will someday remember that my purpose as an actress, I may not be remembered, maybe people remember for films or whatever, but I was that transition actress. I was the actress who went from the object to the subject. The years of the 80s, I started as the object in Virgin. I mean, certainly, I guess there's objectification in The Princess, but with Better Off Dead, there I became the person, the female, that became the subject. So in my career as an actress, you can use me as the person who was like the object of something. But today, women are not just the object, of course, right? We've made that transition to be who we are. But I will say that doesn't mean that women should lose their sexuality or their femininity. I do understand that they've become stronger in that, and they haven't become. What we're trying to do with women is take away the idea that we're
only one
passive and victims of a situation. And in fact, which is interesting, this sugar babies thing really says, for my daughter, you can have your sexuality, but you can also be in charge of it. Do you know what I'm saying? And so I think today the idea of using the phrase babe is sort of like a tongue-in-cheek, like it's not a joke, but it's sort of like
a playful.
Playful. Yeah, I can be the babe, but let's be honest, I'm not an object.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? I'm not a person who's who can be passive or taken advantage of. I know exactly what's going on, and I think to a certain that's very attractive. I think words are very powerful things, and if you say to a girl she's a babe, well, obviously it's a baby, you're like, or even mama, but women can do that too to guys,
Right.
So to me, I look at life and I go, we are people, and men can be objectified, women can be objectified, men can be respected, women can be respected, and as long as we keep it even, with everybody, and as long as people can go in and out of the flow of being anything that they want to be, I think that is really the key. A man can be mothering, and a woman can be, a business person. Just you have to be able to. I got to be a hunk, and we can use we can do both. So.
Yeah, people are complex, and that's kind of the
and we're people, and I think that. The biggest thing women went through in the 80s is we just, and frankly, and I talk about this in my books also, is my generation was the generation where mothers were telling their kids, get an education, don't be in the kitchen, get out. So what happens? We get into the business world, and then who becomes the cooks now? Men. Men are chefs, all these cooking shows. I mean, people have got to cook, but now the guys are in the kitchen cooking, and they're like the chefs. So it's so interesting how it all kind of flip flops, and yet at the same time, why not?
Right.
Why can't we all be, doing it? And I'll tell you, the next generation, the 80s, we went through like a very sort of narcissistic time. Next generation will be like, that's why this next generation is like, stop thinking of yourself. Let's think about the world. What about, let's do the recycling. Let's help each other. We're dying here, and so our society, every generation will bounce kind of opposite to the generation that happened before.
Right. And
sort of fix what the generation did badly in the generation before. And so I'm going to tell you right now, there's going to be an anti-phone generation. There's going to be people who are like, I'm sick of the phones. I'm throwing it away, and we just need to talk.
Right.
But we need to embrace every world, and just allow everybody to, but learn, and there's no right and wrong. It's just about ride the wave in life. And as an actress, I've lived enough life and seen enough in the business to be able to say that and to, and write about that deeply in my book. So you'll see, look, as an adult now, I go, I'm glad I was a babe. I'm glad I was attractive. I look back and go, yeah, I looked pretty good. That was okay. Right. So, whereas at that time I was like, oh no, don't do that. I think throughout your life, you sometimes do things and go, is that something that I should have done? And as you get older, you go, you know what I did? I lived life. Right. And I lived it to the fullest, and I did what I wanted to do. Yeah, that was a great life, So,
and I think that's great, and that's something it sounds like you teach your students too, is go out and live your life and use those experiences to help you form your characters.
Yes, and just like Monique, don't be afraid. You can do it. I think I cannot do it is your middle name, right? And Kiki's ass. That is my. I would have to say, out of all the characters I've ever played, certainly Monique is the closest to my philosophy. So,
well, no, and she is the babe, but the babe who's in control of her own life and knows what she wants and gets it. So
yeah, and that and I love it. I enjoy it. That is to me the ultimate of my experience. Maybe not other people's, but at least know it's possible. It is. Right. But you have to do it. Don't in life do things. Don't. I think for the longest time in my life, I found the biggest problem I've ever had was having to choose between two things to do in my life. And when I decided to do everything, it all flowed. I was like, I'm not just one person. I'm many aspects of myself. And thank goodness the world is like that today. The world says, it used to be like, for instance, you could just be an actress. Well, today you can be an actor, writer, musician, teacher person. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it demands it because everyone has to make money, I guess.
Right. You're your own brand, basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So go and do that. Don't let anyone stop you. Don't be concerned about living up to other people's expectations. Live up to your own, because this is your life, right? And if you're a religious person, probably God would want you to do that too. So, he wants you to live to your highest potential. I'm not, but I would say, that's the point.
Mm-hmm.
So
no, I think that's all great. That's all great advice, and we're
great.
Right?
We're two filmmakers.
Great pearls of wisdom for sure. Thank you.
Oh yeah,
go for it.
Well, we're hoping filmmakers and just fans of movies will listen to this and take all that advice. And I know we didn't get a chance to talk about it, but I just wanted to do a little quick mention to. I loved your performance in Second Time Lucky. I know a lot of people I know haven't seen it, but.
Oh wow! Yes,
but
thank you. And it was I'm very proud of a lot of that. Aside from the Benny Hill parts of it, I think there's some really nice pieces in there, right? The gangster's girlfriend talking like the Eevees.
I just thought it had to have been super fun to play, 4 or 5 different characters in different eras, and
that's why I totally took the role, because that was an amazing role. It was crazy.
Well, that one and just on Blu-ray recently, if people want to check it out, from Scream Factory, who I'm so happy is releasing old movies, is Terror Vision, which I love too.
I love Terror Vision. Oh yeah, it's like, oh my gosh, like oh geez.
Now you didn't keep that wig, did you? The rainbow wig?
I wish I could have. Well, that was created on set. We decided to put 3 wigs on top of each other. That was another moment of creative magic, where in one moment we decided, what if we put 3 wigs on top of each other and spray painted them? How cool would that be? And therein lies the magic of Terror Vision.
No, I love that look that you had. The makeup and everything was just so perfect. You and John Grease were great.
I really realized that my main career, or what I will be remembered for, is encapsulated in the 80s. And because I started it with the curly hair in 80, sort of, it was like 81. Actually, 81 is when I shot Virgin. It came out in 82. And then Bill and Ted's ending it in 89. That whole curly haired phase was sort of like this beautiful moment from my career. And then in the 90s, we went to like the, Nirvana kind of thing. Although, thank goodness curly hair stayed with, some actresses like now was established as being pretty. So like Rebecca Gayheart could have like, career.
Exactly,
Carrie
awesome,
Russell.
thank goodness.
Yeah.
Which is, she, by the way, is my, was considered my doppelganger by Brett Ratner. So there's a great story about her and I in my new book. But just it's amazing how we affect each other's careers, and also everybody who's an actor. I mean, whatever you do, you just do it with your heart, and then you'll see it. It'll pass on to the next generation. And so now, for instance, I'm doing films for my daughter. She's like, whenever she does a film and she needs an older woman and a mom or a grandmother, I will come in and I'll do her characters for her. So she's doing this show called Sugar Babies, and so I've done some episodes of that. And she's actually a major comedy filmmaker. Was at the LA Film Festival, Soho Film Festival, and when she was like, LA Film Festival when she was 15, Soho when she was like 16. Just amazing actress. And so anyway, but her name is Olivia De Laurentiis. So if you're interested, go to oliviadelaurentiis.com and you will see my daughter's work and us working together. And so keep your eye open for her. She's the next generation. But also on top of it, I did 2 films last year. Crazy.
Oh, that's great.
Two thrillers. One is called Waking Nightmare, which should be coming out this year. And oh my gosh, what a fun role. I play, it's about my daughter plays, who is played by Shelley Regner. She's in Pitch Perfect. She plays one of the Bellas.
Cool.
But I play her mother, and I have a very juicy role, and it plays about a girl who commits murders in her sleep, and so she plays my daughter, and Jamison Newlander plays my husband, and I was just
we're looking at
guy who's in
IMDb
Dr.
right now.
American Werewolf.
Mm-hmm. He just worked with my friend Dallas Jamison Newlander. He did Bone Tomahawk. My friend produced that.
Oh, that's so funny. He plays my husband, and then the guy who's in American London and Werewolf.
David Naughton. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Naughton is in the film too, so that film should be coming out, and I don't know what they're gonna do, but I think they have to reshoot a scene, but that film will be coming out this year. And then I did another film, which is an art film with the guy who plays opposite me is Gregory. Granger Hines, and Granger is an amazing actor, and we did this sort of wonderful kind of art sort of esque thriller called The Final Interview. And so that should be coming out as well, I think after May. So keep your eye out for it. And if anybody wants to see the work or what's going on, because so much is going on, that I will go to Diane Franklin 80 on Twitter, or you can go on Facebook. I'm on Facebook, but my Facebook account is full. So if you just go to the regular Diane Franklin fan site, just connect with it, you'll see information about upcoming events and even stuff with my daughter. And if you want to go on Instagram, you could go to Diane to be with you. And so
Nice.
that one is sort of like, it's more kind of I put personal stuff there too, but I do I let people know about events as well. So there you go. That's some of my connections. But the Twitter one, I think, is the best one for upcoming events.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to spend with us.
Thank you.
And we hope we'll put all the links to
Next time
your...
I come to Chicago, you definitely, and I'll be in one of your films. You call me and I'll do it. All right?
Thank you so much. I actually have a few
Yeah.
ideas. I'll be sending you some pitches there, and we'll see what you think. So,
Great. I love it.
well, I guess, yeah. So for 2 self-described hunks and then a babe on the phone, we're gonna go have some French fries.
Yeah.
And
All right.
Yeah.
Au revoir. To make sure he does French fries in Peru. Oh, and wait, aren't you? You're the best of the best, right?
that's right.
Yes, that's
yes.
it.
Okay, so this is Monique Genet saying, listen to the best of the best because it is the best.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for doing that.
Thank
you so
Have
much.
a great day.
You too.
You too.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Man, Diane Franklin is awesome.
Yeah.
Still does the French accent perfectly.
Super sweet.
Sounds like if you meet her at a convention, she'll let you wear the coat that Monique has in Better Off Dead. Just the coolest person. So happy that we got a chance to talk to her. I guess let's just plug some of the stuff she was talking about to make sure people can check them out.
She mentioned her book. It's Diane Franklin: The Excellent Adventures of the Last American French Exchange Babe of the 80s, which is, obviously a long, silly title based on the movies that made her popular, made her famous. I think that will give you a little more in depth about her experience as a babe of the 80s. And then there's the second, and that book has a foreword by
Savage Steve Holland.
Savage Steve Holland, who directed
Better Off
Dead and One Crazy Summer, and amongst other things. And then the second book she was mentioning is called Diane Franklin, The Excellent Curls of the Last American French Exchange Babe of the 80s. And that one actually has a foreword by Brett Ratner in it, who is apparently a huge fan of The Last American Virgin.
That's funny to know.
Bought the rights to the movie itself. So cool that he did that, and checked out that book as well.
I feel like I'm going to have to write a remake version of this script now, knowing that he has the rights, because
That'd be cool.
I would love to do a remake of this. So yeah,
we could do it.
We should do it. So yeah, if you want to check out Diane on Twitter, her handle is at Diane Franklin 80. That's 80. And if you want to see her on Instagram, you can check her out at instagram.com/Diane to be with you, which is a fun name.
Pretty funny pun. I like it.
Yeah, she's great. And it seems like, Diane's traveling all over, so you can get a chance to meet her. She talked about that awesome 80s convention in Dominican Republic, which I feel like we have to go to. Maybe we do it. Maybe if we actually have people listen to this.
Maybe Radar can make it a thing.
I was going to say, yeah, if you guys listen and you tell your friends and we can get to a certain number of people, maybe they'll send us there and we'll party with all our...
Interview Booger.
Anthony Michael Hall is an awesome guy. We'd love to talk to him. We'll talk to Diane again and maybe do a tour.
Party with Oingo Boingo.
Party with Oingo Boingo. Maybe go on the beach. I don't know. Do some sort of 80s beach stuff. I don't know.
Breakdance
on some cardboard.
Checkerboard.
Yeah. So this was so much fun. Our goal with this show, like we said in the first episode, is to talk about the movies we love. Just talk about film in general, because we love film and we love creating it. But also to talk to the people who are in the films that we admire. So we hope you enjoyed this interview with Diane Franklin. We hope there's many, many more. If there's people that you know or that you would like us to talk to based on an episode, please reach out to our email addresses and social media handles, which you'll hear right after this. And just let us know, because we want to reach out. We want to talk to these people. They're kindred spirits with us. They love their art and what they create.
And they're excited to talk. And
most importantly, yeah, they're excited to
so.
Talk about what they've done. So
well, cool, guys.
Yeah. Catch you next time.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. We ask that you rate, review, and subscribe to Best of the Best on iTunes or your preferred podcast app. Have ideas for show topics, opinions, or just want to say hello? Send us an email to bestofthebestpod@gmail.com. Till next time, special thanks to Radar Studios and long live Don Hogue.